Welcome, everyone, to this Freedom Hub presentation of Your Free Market Cash Patient. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with my co-host, Charles Froman. We're sponsored by the Freedom Hub, which is, in fact, the disruptor's intersection, and tonight will be no exception, as you will see. We've got some issues going on in the space out there, the healthcare space, and we've kind of tried to point to it all the time. There's a big obstacle, and we could put a different number of names on this entity in the middle, and all of them are pertinent. So the bottom line is we've got to get the patients and the doctors back straight together, and all this third party in between. The program's real simple, as you can understand. Medical healthcare in America is a real simple process. This is just a simple shot of just one aspect of it. So you'll look at this, come back later and watch this. You'll be able to figure this out. It's going to be great. And then, on top of that, we're getting all kinds of great information. Is it good? Is it bad? Who do I trust? Who's getting paid? Who's not? It's fantastic. And are we lemmings, or are we like leaders ourselves? And this is kind of what it might start to smell like. The virus is starting to mutate. So, but the idea is we got to break it. So we do a similar show earlier in the day, which is about broader freedom issues than just your healthcare. But guess what? Healthcare is the closest to your real world than all the rest of this stuff. So that's why tonight is so mission critical. We've got a program that's really fantastic for you to be able to kind of set yourself free, plays well into what this is, and works as a nice hand in glove program together with these. And so you're going to want to take a look at the website where everything kind of hubs out of. Let's take a quick gander before we jump into today. When you get over to your-mp.com, which is short for the Marketplace for Health, Wealth, and Freedom, you'll see the Home tab as well as a bunch of other good tabs that scope out. But under Home, there's webinars and the conversation continuing. That's an important one, because after you get enthralled with what's going on tonight, you think, this is great, I really got to get going with this situation. You click on that link and off to this area you go. And here's where we get to connect with all the prior guests. So any of these topics that you find enlightening and important to you, you're going to get a chance to grow with them. And when you're on the webinar page, which is where we are today, then you'll scroll down to see who's on the two daises for today. And this was tonight, to 7 o'clock. Then you'll also see who's coming up. And then very importantly, the links that show you where they're all archived. So here's where you're going to fall in love with some really amazing speakers. And then you're going to want to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, the bulk of these talks could be a year or more old. They're as current as this one we're going to do today. These problems still exist. We still need help. And it's going to take an army of us to make things better. So just to point all that out. But let's find out what we're going to get involved in tonight. So on that note, Charles, I'm going to let you do the honors.
Gladly, Jeff, and welcome, Sidney. And this is exciting for Jeff and me, because over the years of hosting this webinar, 3 straight years every Wednesday, there are some themes that have arisen. And the biggest, frankly, is that cash is king. And that if we don't try to upgrade patients into price-sensitive shoppers, if we don't encourage practitioners to offer prices and allow the real supply and demand curve to work, there's no way in heck we're going to fix this cartel. And Jeff and I, we were featured in Forbes for our combo of sharing in HSAs and using a concierge to help our patients and small business workers find well-priced and quality health care. And we have worked with a cash appointments app that is somewhat similar perhaps to what Sidney might present tonight. But another dynamic Jeff and I have discovered, which is important for our webinars, is not to be selfish, not to be greedy, because sort of like the politics that Jeff and I share around liberty, we're the pathfinders, we're the vanguard, but most people are interested but not quite there with us. And that goes for healthcare. The cartel exists, and it is a small part of the market where cash is king. It's got the biggest upside, but we have to cooperate. We have to help our competitors who might be our partners in a month, in a year. So Jeff and I love the dynamic of win-win. We don't believe in the win-lose dynamic. That's a Keynesian concept that is ridiculous on its face. The more people find out about sharing and cash appointments and marketplaces, the more comfortable they are with these big paradigm shifts, and they become more readily, customers of ours and partners of ours. And Sidney Haitoff has the Mishe marketplace where doctors can join for a subscription. There are other marketplaces that upcharge, like Amazon. And since Sidney is making some headway with his version, we thought it would be a good time now to let him give a presentation. And we have some great guests listening in, so we can find some partners. So that's the intro, Jeff.
All right, very good. Well, it's exciting because, as we've been saying a moment ago, that it's going to take an army of people to make things happen. So, Sidney, welcome to the club, and we're here to help as best we can. So let me stop sharing and give you the floor, and please give us a rundown on what you're up to.
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me okay?
You're fantastic.
Okay, very good. I'm going to share my screen. I had a brief presentation set up, just going into some of the details of the state that we're in with regards to the industry. Some of it is what some of it will echo some of what you just said. And I'd like to just start off by saying thanks for having me, Jeff and Charlie. Appreciate the opportunity, and it's been really nice to be welcomed by the group of innovators and disruptors who are looking to fix the industry and solve some of or most of or a lot of the woes that people are suffering from. Healthcare is far too expensive for consumers, for patients, and it's not lucrative enough for doctors who are suffering from physician burnout due to the BS that they're put through when you're just trying to collect on and be reimbursed for the services that they render. And so that was the impetus behind me starting Mishe and developing our pay-as-you-go healthcare marketplace. And that is why I'm so supportive of the cash pay model and the potential that it has to solve a lot of the problems that we deal with, and a lot of, again, the BS that I like how you refer to them as the cartel, that the cartel puts providers, doctors, and patients, consumers through. I was going to start, and I will start with just a little bit of a brief overview of what Mishe is and my background. So Mishe, again, marketplace for cash pay, what we call pay-as-you-go healthcare services. We connect doctors with patients directly based on transparent and hopefully affordable pricing. So doctors will list their services and the cash pay rates that they set for those services on our marketplace. And we publish those on the mobile-friendly, consumer-centric marketplace that is intended to look and feel similar to what you would see and expect to see in any other consumer-forward industries that have kind of been transformed by marketplace tech solutions over the last decade or so. We position ourselves as the Grubhub or the Etsy or the Airbnb of healthcare. And you're right in saying that, we might not be the first or not the only ones who have taken this type of approach, but I do believe that our model, the subscription-based model, and the consumer-centric approach that we're taking towards the customer experience and also our marketing will set us apart from our competitors and allow us to kind of pave and help pave the way for this more direct-to-consumer model that removes the cartel middlemen that and resolves a lot of the issues that both patients and doctors deal with today. So yeah, I would say that the number one reason why I came up with this idea, I come from the revenue cycle side of healthcare. I've worked with thousands of providers across the country over the last 10 years. I've been in billing and revenue cycle management, practice management, and compliance for my entire professional career. My father owned a billing company, and so I was kind of given the entrepreneurial bug since I was a kid, and that company put me through college. I'm blessed for that. And now I'm before you talking about wanting to put an end or a dent or cannibalize that industry, because I am of it and I know that it is set up to hurt and harm providers and doctors and patients. The system works against the people and the stakeholders that it's intended to support, and it's only a matter of time before the change that people are so desperately yearning for comes to market and gets that critical mass that we all feel that it will get eventually. There's only a matter of time, and obviously it's up to us to streamline that process, but it all comes down to, and the reason for the marketplace and the reason for the pain and the disdain that we all have for the cartel and the insurance carriers and the establishment and the system all comes down to just that. It's the system of insurance reimbursements. And so before we go into kind of a brief demo of the platform, I just want to kind of go through some of the industry dynamics that I'm sure everyone's familiar with, but that I wanted to highlight as it pertains to our offering. And also, before I do that, I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, are wondering what or where the name Mishe comes from. So Mishe is short for Mishe. It's a prayer for healing, because the U.S. healthcare system and its most important and valuable stakeholders, the doctors and patients, consumers, could really use some healing. So just a brief outline of what we're going to run through, and I'll breeze through it just because, again, this is a lot of information that the audience likely knows. So I'm going to talk about and start with insurance reimbursement and go into high deductible health plans, price transparency, etc. So again, insurance reimbursement, this is the bane of the industry, in my opinion. The revenue cycle in general that dictates physician reimbursement and frankly manages physician reimbursement is a massive industry. Currently at $120 billion in 2020, the industry size, going up to $287 billion, the estimate in 2028, and it just the increase is due to the complexity in the regulations and the hoops that insurance carriers force doctors through to get paid for services that have already been rendered. It's a backwards process that I have managed teams to overcome and maximize profitability for docs, but it's fighting an uphill battle, and we chose to, rather than trying to optimize the process, we're trying now to tear down the process, which it sounds like I'm joining a great group of people in trying to do. But like everyone's aware of, we got downward pricing pressure, continuing Medicare and the commercial insurance carriers continuously decreasing reimbursements, increasing the rules and regulations, but rules required to get paid, and rules, managed care requirements and rules that dictate doctor clinical decision making in an adverse way, and limits care, delays and denies reimbursement, and it really adds a lot of cost to the system and to, again, to its most important stakeholders. The uncertainty that doctors have to deal with and the surprise bills that patients have to deal with, it's just ridiculous in today's day and age. So we're working to tear it down. Hopefully in doing so, we will alleviate some of the stress and a lot of the stress that doctors have to contend with on behalf of their practices, on behalf of their businesses, on behalf of their patients, just to get paid. And a lot of the time that ends up messing with the patient relationship, which makes practicing medicine not fun from what I've heard, and it adds to physician burnout as physicians try to offset declining reimbursements and stress patient relationships with increased volume. It's just a downward spiral, and it's not sustainable. Oh, there we go. Over the years, as everyone's aware, insurance carriers, in addition to increasing the rules and regulations to continue to maximize their profitability, because obviously they're for-profit entities and their first duty is to their shareholders, to continue to maximize their profitability, they've increasingly shifted responsibility for payment of medical care to their beneficiaries. Premiums continue to rise, but deductibles continue to rise, and the reimbursements continue to shrink, and so the equation doesn't really add up. From what I've seen, the only ones benefiting are the insurance carriers. But over the last 10 years, especially since the advent of the ACA, high deductible health plans have been on the rise, and the benefit of those to the consumer, to the patient, is they're intended to reduce, obviously, the monthly premium and make that more affordable, even though people on average are still paying thousands of dollars each year towards those premiums. But the idea behind the high deductible health plan is to reduce the monthly premium, but in return, we increase the deductible and increase the out-of-pocket that any individual must pay towards their care before insurance comes to the table. And so in some instances, the high deductible health plans work for people. For a lot of healthier, younger beneficiaries benefit from the reduced monthly premium and don't end up feeling the burden of the out-of-pocket costs too much because they're not actually utilizing too much care. But in the instance where they do, it does end up and has the potential to cost them more than it would not having a high deductible health plan. And that's what's shown in this grid here between person A and person B. And overall, the high deductible health plans are here to stay. And with people on average, with these employer-sponsored high deductible health plans spending no greater than $2,000 on average out of pocket towards their medical bills, most people don't ever reach those deductible limits, and so they're functionally uninsured and only get the benefit of the high deductible coverage should they incur some adverse catastrophic condition or injury that ends up costing them greater than an amount greater than their deductible, and only then will the insurance come to the table and pay. But for most people with these or employer-sponsored plans, they don't ever end up meeting those deductibles, and so people end up paying thousands of dollars towards coverage that they don't end up using, and again, making them functionally uninsured. And so it's led to people having to find and identify more creative ways to maximize the efficiency of their spend and really kind of be more of a consumer than they've ever had to be. The concept of price transparency is one that has gained a lot of steam over the last 5 years, I would say, but really over the last year or two, more than ever, because of, and in part because of those high deductible health plans and the trend towards consumerism in healthcare. And so there was the price transparency mandate that led to the price transparency rule that required hospitals and requires hospitals to publish their cash pay and contracted, discounted, negotiated rates that they have with insurance carriers in a machine readable, public, and transparent way. And as I'm sure everyone on this call is sensitive and aware to, they've been notoriously non-compliant. From my perspective, that adherence and compliance to that rule would render a lot of their receivables uncollectible, because a lot of those bills that are outstanding to people who pay out of pocket, self-pay, or out of network are based on the inflated rate, that bill charge rate that is in effect, a multiple of what the true cost of care is and should be. That true cost of care being that discounted, contracted, negotiated rate that is oftentimes what the cash pay rate is based on. And so price transparency, again, hot topic. It helps people know and get a better feel for what they should be paying out of pocket for the care that they receive, and helps them to become healthier consumers of care. And it's unfortunate that we've been forced into this environment by the dynamic and the natures of the insurance-based system, and the ever increasing shift of responsibility to patients. But at this point, it has opened the doors for people like myself and like everyone, frankly, on this call, to start to think about commerce and healthcare commerce in different ways. I know that Charles and Jeff and a few other participants on the call have taken different approaches towards the concept of price transparency and leveraging the transparent data to reduce and minimize spend and maximize the kind of efficiency of the spend. And so I commend everyone on this call for taking those steps and taking that innovative approach. And we're doing our part to do the same. We built the marketplace and are prioritizing and promoting price transparency to help both the underinsured and the functionally uninsured or underinsured with the high deductible health plans. We're helping those people identify upfront what they should be and what they want to pay for any given service, in the same way that a consumer has the ability to do so, or has the ability to shop based on price or different parameters, if they were shopping for an airline ticket, or if they were shopping for food, or if they were wanted to order a service or a customized good online. And so I think the silver lining in all of this is that we're kind of forced to build out some of the technologies and the innovative models that we've on this call, that those of us on this call have promoted. And so I think it's up to us to continue the trend and really try our best and our damnedest to sorry, I'm admitting people continuously. Try our best to continue to promote the trend and make it more. Looks like I'm muted, but now not.
I unmuted you, sorry.
Okay, very good. I'm admitting people in as they come in. I hope
No,
okay.
I've been doing it, so go ahead.
Oh, okay.
So don't ignore that.
Okay, very good. So yeah, price transparency, here to stay. I'm happy about it. And it's good because a lot of people end up avoiding care altogether due to the nature and due to the fact that they are responsible for a lot of the care, or excuse me, for financially responsible for the care that they receive, and are on the hook for that care. Based on this graph, this was taken from a study that Adobe did on the consumerism of healthcare, and it shows that 60% of people ages 55 and under are hesitant to pursue treatment of conditions and issues due to cost uncertainty. And we've done some consumer kind of market research on behalf of Mishe, and one of the insights and one of the insights that I found to be particularly powerful is this one from Dan in Denver. He told me that he's more comfortable wagering $800 on a sports bet than he is getting an MRI due to the uncertainty of the cost that is associated with the MRI. And MRI is a particular instance where the swing of costs is so great. You have some MRI facilities or some imaging facilities charging $500 for an MRI, whereas if you go through insurance, depending on the facility that you get the MRI or where you get the MRI, it might cost you $2,500. And so that swing, it just represents the desperate need for price transparency and the value that it brings in the marketplace. And people are able to see what they're potentially going to need to pay upfront. They can shop, they can choose to travel to a different market to obtain care, where care might be more affordable, or where a facility might be offering, let's say an MRI at a cheaper rate. The concept of medical tourism is one that, unfortunately, or in some instances, causes our system to lose people to other countries. And in some instances, obviously, people are coming into our medical system to get better care. But the beauty of price transparency and marketplaces such as Mishe is that it gives people the information that they need to make decisions that might yield a better result if they were to travel to get the care. And so just the ability to have that option is a powerful one that saves people thousands and should save the industry millions and billions over the course of the next decade. So pay-as-you-go healthcare, we refer to the concept of cash pay, self-pay, private pay, free market care, direct primary care, direct specialty care. They all mean the same thing. The doctor is getting paid directly by the consumer. It eliminates that uncertainty. It eliminates the surprises. It allows for budgeting. It makes the entire process a lot more frictionless and enjoyable. I think we've seen the trend towards direct primary care, catching steam, and direct specialty care as well, due to the one, price transparency and people knowing what they're going to be paying, and two, the ability to kind of have a better relationship with between the doctor, provider, and consumer. One, they're not burning out as much, and the relationship is better because there's no confusion, there are no issues with regards to payment. Everyone knows kind of what to expect up front, and that's really the name of the game when it comes to free market care, when it comes to pay-as-you-go healthcare, and when it comes to solutions like Mishe's pay-as-you-go healthcare marketplace. So the marketplace, relatively straightforward. Like I said, we connect doctors directly with consumers on the basis of transparent price. So doctors will contract with us to list their rates on our platform, and where patients, consumers get increased visibility and accessibility to the services offered in their local area in somewhat of a similar way that you would expect to see on, you know, a ZocDoc or Health Grades, I guess, has location-based search tools, but I would say ZocDoc is probably the premier location-based search tool. We're looking to, you know, to compete and not only provide you know, a directory of providers for people to search in their local area, but the ability to shop for care based on the cash pay rates that those providers set for their services. And like I believe it was Charlie said earlier, we operate on a subscription model. We're bullish on that model because it sets a capped amount at, you know, the revenue that we can realize from any given provider. And it's our goal to establish long-term partnerships and relationships with our providers, because we see the offering, the marketplace offering, and really the pay-as-you-go offering as far more than just a marketplace. We're frankly a consumer engagement or a healthcare engagement tool. We want to help providers and consumers engage on the basis of price, but also, you know, facilitate streamlined communication between providers and consumers through, you know, secure messaging that you might see in other platforms. We're taking that same approach and facilitating that streamlined communication between consumers and providers, and also plan to do so between providers. So we want to help providers and automate the process by which providers collaborate on the basis of price and you know, clinical care. But from what I've seen in my time in the industry, and frankly, just in general, from a history perspective, you always got to follow the money. You know, people are incentivized by money. I'm not saying that, you know, across the board, that's people's only incentive, but you know, the reason why there's a huge issue of, you know, disparate systems and the challenge of interoperability across EMRs in healthcare is because of the high-tech money, the incentive money that was funneled into the system. You had the creation of all of these competing systems and who were trying to capture market share, none of whom had any incentive to communicate with the other. And so those EMRs were their main priority was capturing market share, and that was all comes down to money. So we're taking a slightly different approach. We're starting with the money, starting by giving providers, giving doctors an easier way to manage their practice and attract demand in a way that competes with, you know, insurance carriers, and then using that apparatus and that platform then to facilitate and incentivize the collaboration of providers, you know, within given specialties and across specialties. Now, our goal is to be able to offer, you know, full episodes of care and allow consumers to shop for treatment that, you know, treatment for episodes of care. And I see and we envision a world where consumers and young couples can put their maternity care, expected maternity care, on their wedding registry, because the collaboration between the gynecologist and the facility and the labs and the primary care provider, that is so seamless to an extent where all of those offerings are searchable and available under one roof and accessible, you know, at one price. And so, you know, again, our goal and long-term goal is to facilitate that collaboration that will make the access of care much more straightforward and much more affordable. Now I'd like to open it up to questions. I feel that I've kind of explained the model and the platform. I could give you guys a quick demo.
Just going to say, why don't you show us what it actually looks like on the device? Let's take a peek.
So, where's this? So this is the platform. The idea was to make it as simple and straightforward as possible, so that the user, coming onto the platform for the first time kind of gets a sense for kind of what they need to do to navigate and search for care. So we have their search bar here. Users can search for or search by care based on symptom, service, specialty, provider name, organization. You could search based on your zip code. We started and launched in the Southern California area a few months ago, and we have about 150 providers on the marketplace that primarily are in Southern California. We have a couple in Chicago, in Houston, and I'm actually in New York currently building out our provider network here. So here I'll search for back pain, let's just say. So back pain yields results that for treatments for services that are associated with this symptom. So you have MRI offered by Green Imaging Facilities in San Diego. You have a new patient office visit that could potentially treat back pain from the Perlman Clinic. We have some chiropractic offerings, an office visit consult from a primary care provider who also offers virtual care consults. If I wanted to search by a particular provider, I don't know if this person or if this doctor is on this call, but she it seems has a participant in the cash pay direct specialty care movement. So you could search by provider. This is Dr. Bowden of Breathe MD. If anyone wanted to click in to get some additional information about an organization, it's just a matter of clicking that hyperlink, and it provides you with the description, contact information, as well as the services offered by the provider and the organization, as well as their location and the providers that are within that practice. Again, I searched for Dr. Bowden, and it yielded the results for her practice with Breathe MD. From the main screen, you could also search by top services or top specialties. So for imaging, we have, again, Green Imaging, as well as x-rays offered by the Shelter Island Medical Group, and any other providers that offer imaging services. Once the user identifies the service that they'd like to purchase, it's just a matter of adding to the cart. And here I'm going to delete that out of my cart. And continuing to check out is a straightforward process. I'll go ahead and use my login. So I have the wrong password here. So once you're in here, pre-populates with the consumer's information, have the service, continue to payment, and I would, the end user would enter in their credit card information, they would confirm payment, and it would yield a confirmation on this screen and would direct them to their Mishe dashboard, where they would see scheduling instructions for how to reach out to the provider organization that they purchased the care from. Users use their voucher code that they receive in their dashboard upon purchase. That voucher code is used as the payment method, somewhat similar to what I'm sure some of you have seen with Groupon, where you make the purchase, you get the voucher code, and that voucher code is used as the payment method. That allows us, when the provider redeems the voucher and processes the voucher, that's what tells Mishe that the care actually occurred, and providers are sent payment in full usually the next day, but at the very latest within the next business week. So relatively straightforward. Let's see, do I have any care? No care purchased here. I have another account. My personal account has some care purchased. But again, very straightforward. The idea was to make it super intuitive for people to use. And if I would suggest taking a look from your mobile device. It's intended to mimic some of the consumer-centric technologies, again, that we've grown accustomed to in different industries, like Grubhub in the restaurant industry and Etsy or Airbnb in the travel industry. I see Charlie.
Okay, yeah, I got some questions for you too. I'll kind of monitor the hands up as well. So focus on those questions and answers. I was just saying, is two quickie questions for you. One is that kind of apples for apples. So when they show price those doctors, that's an all-in price. None of them are going to have hidden added on charges after I get to their office or anything of that nature.
All in price, and I'll give you an example of how we communicate that. So for this MRI, let's say the description is on the provider profile. So the description of green imaging, it says pretty upfront that the cash pay price is the final price you pay, and there's no extra charge. So we're pretty communicative about that with our consumers, that yes, the price that you see is the only price that you're going to pay. That's kind of the crux and the foundation of our offering, is that there are no hidden fees, no surprises, no surprise bills, no bills after the fact. You're getting what you pay for, and you're paying for what you get. So
That's good. It kind of that's really what you're looking for, because at least it becomes apples to apples at that point. Otherwise, the pricing is almost gimmicky. The only other question I was going to ask before we open it up for everyone else is the fact that you're adding new doctors. What's kind of your methodology, or how do you best get doctors, or how can we help you get doctors?
So great question. It's one that we've been iterating with, trying to figure out what works best, and trying to the best of our ability, hack the provider sales process and get the most benefit for the resources that we're expending on building out the network. One that we've found to be very successful and efficient is leveraging existing sales infrastructures, and I'll be more specific, establishing relationships with medical sales reps who are contractors and aren't employed by a single entity, and have the freedom to set meetings and facilitate demos with the providers in their network on our behalf. And so we've had some pretty great success, leveraging those existing infrastructures in the Southern California area, and look to do the same in New York. Another avenue that we've been pursuing and will continue to pursue is with partnerships with IPAs, so independent physician associations. They represent a lot of time upwards of thousands of providers in a given region, and so looking to establish relationships and partnerships with those entities, because at the end of the day, our goal is to become the partner of the providers that we service. Yes, the goal is to make care more accessible for the consumer, but we also we're in it to democratize the industry and really provide an added level of autonomy and freedom to providers. And so there's the clear benefit to the associations and the providers that they represent in that regard.
To add to the flip side of that, how do you get the consumers? That once you get all those doctors in there, how are you attracting people, either through employers or just trying to get the consumers in and of themselves?
So great question. We are taking more of a consumer-centric approach. From what we've seen, there's been a heavy emphasis put on the employer and trying to activate the consumer via their employer. And while I see the logic there, we feel that there's a huge opportunity to go directly to the consumer in a way or in ways that consumers are accustomed to seeing, in other industries. And I'll be more specific. We see a huge opportunity among the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, but primarily, at least initially, millennial generation, the generation that I am of. And millennials consume content in a different way and consume advertising and learn about brands and learn about solutions in a different way than I believe that we've seen in prior generations. And so we're doubling down on the social media driven approach, doubling down on engaging with influencers, which when you look at it at a high level, it's nothing more than word of mouth marketing, which is a huge resource and component of marketing and healthcare in general. We're just utilizing and leveraging the trends of today and taking advantage of the avenues with which people consume content and again learn about brands to maximize our traction and the consumer awareness of this resource. And it's been very very effective. We've done a few market tests for some paid advertising in preparation for a few bigger campaigns that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months. And we've crushed the averages for healthcare spend on Facebook and on Google. And so it's clear that people are yearning for this type of solution. And it's clear that we've kind of identified the right targets and audiences within those demographics that will be very likely to convert and hopefully will set the stage for scale relatively quick and comprehensive scale going forward.
Very good. Charles, I see your hand is up.
It is, Jeff, and great presentation, Sidney. Very excited about your venture, and I like your marketing methods with the contract reps, the IPAs, and millennial social media marketing and influencers and word of mouth. I get the word of mouth parts and the innovative marketing because that's what Jeff and I have had to do at Empowering Benefits. And I think you're right about the consumer targeting. Certainly, the package that we sell, making cash patients with sharing and HSAs, is ripe for the realtors and the gig workers, people buying healthcare on their own. And I wonder, we have a lot of doctor customers who get our product for themselves to save money. And they give it to their patients because they want them having funds to pay cash. In your sales process for Mishe, what is the kind of conversation that gets the doctor over the hump to say, yes, I'll pay that subscription. I want to be seen on your marketplace. I want cash patients.
So great question. We are offering, and thank you for asking the question because I should have clarified this. So as we build out our provider network, we're offering the subscription free of charge for the first year. We believe very heavily in this offering and the impact that it'll have and the growth that we expect over the next 12 to 24 months. And we'll be and have been pursuing venture capital to offset the operating costs to garner that support or garner the support and the provider participation. So we're offering it for free for providers. I spoke with a podiatrist in Southern California just last night who said, what do I have to lose? And that's the point, is they got nothing to lose. For the most part, most of the providers or doctors that we speak with are fed up with the way that things are and have been, and have been looking for an alternative. And we are providing just that. We package it in a way that is engaging and appealing and exciting, and we're able to help prove the return on the investment and convert providers and doctors to that subscription, by sending them new patients. Our main value prop is from a marketing perspective. We help doctors add new patients to their practice and add new patients that they don't have to spend 30 cents on the dollar to collect on the services that they render. We're adding patients that are paying them up front. And I think that it's a common misconception that cash pay patients, or people who want to pay cash, who might have a high deductible health plan but opt to pay the cash pay rate because they know that it's more affordable and cheaper than going through insurance, because the doctors don't have to spend that 30 cents on the dollar in billing and administrative costs. It's a common misconception that those people don't have money. With the increasing trend towards the gig economy and the growth of that section of the workforce, the continuing growth of that section of the workforce, and the fact that's not showing any sign of letting up, especially in the wake of the pandemic. People have funds, and they, just because they don't have your standard government sponsored insurance doesn't mean that they don't have the money to spend. It's just that they're hesitant to spend it because they don't know how much they will end up spending for a given service. And so, from the provider's perspective, we're unlocking a considerable portion of demand that has sat latent in the industry and in the kind of health economy, waiting for the price transparency and information to be made public. That 60% statistic that I shared earlier, 60% of people avoiding treatment due to cost concerns. We're activating that 60% of people, and activating that portion of the market that represents a pretty lucrative segment for providers. And in the conversations that we've had so far, it's pretty clear that doctors get it. Hopefully that answers the question.
That was good. We got time for like two quickie questions to squeeze in here. So quick answers then. Sam, I see you've got one real fast, and Dr. Campbell, I'm going to slip you in.
Yeah, thanks. Sidney, thanks for sharing. I actually had a number of questions, but I'll keep it down to one.
Feel free to reach out to me directly.
Continuing the conversation. What was I talking about at the beginning? You see why it's important? Go for it. Go ahead, Sam. Thanks for plugging that page for me. I'm going to show it while you're asking. Go for it.
All right, Sidney. So I'm assuming that the providers that you're signing up are cash-friendly providers. They're not entirely cash-based providers, right? They have risk-based practices too. What's been your experience in terms of some providers who are hesitant to publish prices? They'd love to get cash pay patients and they'd love to be on your side, but they don't want to publish prices because of various reasons, mainly because they think it's going to cause some ripples with their carriers and so on and so forth. At least that's some of the issues I've heard. Have you run into that problem? And how does that affect, if that is true, how does that affect sort of the scale of provider onboarding for your business?
So great questions, and thanks for attending and engaging. I would say that in terms of the hesitance to post their prices, it really comes in two forms primarily. One, like you said, providers, doctors are concerned about how that might impact their stance or status with the carriers that they participate with. And so the main concern that they have and the main risk there is that a patient comes in who has insurance that they accept and participate with, and they the patient opts for cash pay because they don't, frankly, they know what it's going to cost them with cash pay and don't know what it would cost them through their deductible on the back end. And the concern there is that the doctor might be in breach of their contract should the cash pay rate be less than the contracted rate. And so the response to that is, and what we kind of tell doctors in general, is when you're modeling out and establishing those cash pay rates, use your contracted rate as the lower bound. That's our kind of formal suggestion, and that will eliminate the potential for that to ever be, a risk and for them to ever be in breach of their contract, because it would be the same price. They're still getting, the added benefit. The doctor's still getting the added benefit because they don't have to pay the billing costs. So net, they're positive, and they're able to avoid that potential risk. The other side of that, though, is that patients are protected from submitting and doctors submitting bills to insurance carriers. We communicate to our docs that you shouldn't be submitting bills to your insurance carriers for any of the services that you render and collect money through Mishe for, because double dipping that will put you in jeopardy, and that's not that's against the terms of the agreement that user agreements that doctors sign when they sign up for the platform. Another kind of comment to that is doctors don't care. From what we've heard, when it comes down to the concern of them being in breach with their insurance carrier, I've heard doctors say, "Come after me. Let them come after me. I don't give a crap." So that kind of just goes to the frustration and yeah. The other side of that, though, is the competition. They don't want to post their prices because they feel that it's going to be a race to the bottom. And from what we've seen, that's not the case. If you're concerned about losing patients or patients not coming to you because of your price or your cash pay rate, and you think that that's the only reason why consumers coming to you is because you might be cheaper, and not they're not considering the quality of the relationship that they have with you, then that's a separate issue. And we've kind of heard that refrain, or heard support for that concept. Doctors, they set their rates and they're confident in it, and the ones who aren't, and the ones who think that it might be a race to the bottom tend to have a little bit more to worry about when it comes to the relationship with their patients.
Gotcha on that one. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we got time for one quickie here. So Dr. Campbell, if you'll do the honors.
Oh, thank you. Terrific presentation. And I think doctors are burnout and frustrated. I am one. The thing is about physicians, they're very risk averse. So anything you can do to do a little hand holding is going to help them out, because doctors are just culturally brought up that way. I will say that the price transparency rule is a wonderful thing. If you want to perhaps work with the people who made that happen, AID, Association of Independent Doctors, was central to that. Marnie Jameson is the CEO. A nice letter to her saying, thank you for price transparency. And they have about 10,000 independent doctors who might be interested in hearing what you're saying. Lastly, I'll just say what you're doing is, I think, the future. The governments will tell us, the officials will tell us, though, that patients are too unable. They don't have the skills and the knowledge to shop for healthcare. So what do you say to that?
BS. We're in the age of information, and the price transparency rule mandated the price transparency for shoppable services. So they're called shoppable services. The government calls them shoppable services because they're shoppable and they're pretty straightforward. I would say that there are certain procedures that aren't shoppable, but I also will say that we have, and we being a consumer, I'm not a physician, I'm more on the consumer side, we have the benefit and the luxury of licensed and trained doctors to help us navigate the clinical complexities of the system. I'm not saying that patients should make their own decisions in terms of what treatment they should get. I still believe that that is the responsibility and the role of the provider, whether it be a primary care physician or a specialist. But what we're doing is helping consumers make a bit more of an educated purchase when it comes to the treatment that they have been directed to obtain or consume from their licensed care provider. Does that make sense? Hopefully that answers.
No, that was very good for sure. So I appreciate that. Absolutely. I was going to tell you, we sadly run out of time, so I need you to get back to us on down the road as we keep going, and we're going to definitely continue that conversation. As you can see, that's going to be vital for all of us to help get things rolling for you there. So sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thanks for the platform. Thanks for everyone.